The morning was bitter cold, 7:45 sharp. A man ran through Manhattan streets, his breath forming desperate clouds. One chance. One interview. Then came the screech of brakes, the sickening thud, blood on concrete. In that moment, Daniel Rodriguez chose humanity over opportunity. Daniel Rodriguez had been running for 15 minutes straight through the frozen streets of Lower Manhattan. His worn dress shoes slapped against icy sidewalks, as he clutched a folder containing his resume, references, and the one photo he always carried, his 8-year-old daughter Emma, smiling with missing front teeth. The Sterling Corporation building loomed ahead, all 47 floors of gleaming glass and steel reaching into the gray winter sky. This interview for the maintenance supervisor position was his only shot at escaping the night shift, at being there when Emma woke up, at reading her bedtime stories instead of leaving her with the elderly neighbor again. 5 years of working 11 at night to 7 in the morning had carved deep lines around his 42-year-old eyes. 5 years of mopping floors, while executives slept, fixing broken systems in the shadows, being invisible. But today would be different. Today, someone would finally see his worth. The city moved around him in its usual morning chaos. Yellow cabs honked impatiently, steam rose from subway grates, and thousands of people rushed past without making eye contact. Daniel checked his watch, 7:45. 15 minutes early, just as he'd planned. He slowed to a walk, straightening his borrowed tie, trying to calm his racing heart. The security guard at Sterling's entrance nodded in recognition. After all, Daniel had been cleaning these floors long enough to know every guard, every janitor, every forgotten soul who kept the building running while the important people made their millions. Then he heard the screech of brakes that seemed to last forever, followed by a sound he'd never forget. A woman's body flew through the air like a broken doll, landing hard on the concrete just 20 feet away. Her designer coat spread around her like wings, blonde hair spilling across the sidewalk, blood beginning to pool beneath her head. The taxi driver sat frozen behind the wheel. Pedestrians stopped, stared, pulled out phones. But nobody moved toward her. Daniel's folder fell from his hands, papers scattering in the wind. His interview, his future, his chance, none of it mattered. He dropped to his knees beside her, his calloused hands surprisingly gentle, as he checked for a pulse. Strong but rapid. She was young, maybe 35, with the kind of polished beauty that spoke of wealth and power. The gash on her head was deep, bleeding freely. Daniel ripped off his suit jacket without thinking, pressing it against the wound. "You're going to be okay," he whispered, though her eyes remained closed. "Stay with me." He fumbled for his phone with his free hand, dialing 911 while maintaining pressure on the wound. Around him, the crowd grew larger, their phones out, recording instead of helping. Daniel ignored them all, focused only on the woman whose life was draining onto his only good jacket. Miles away, in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, Cassandra Sterling's alarm had failed to go off. The CEO of Sterling Corporation never overslept, never ran late, never lost control. But last night's board meeting had gone until 3 in the morning, another brutal session of defending her decisions to men who thought a 35-year-old woman had no business running a billion-dollar tech empire. She'd built Sterling from nothing, turned her father's failing hardware company into a cloud computing giant. But every day was still a battle, every decision questioned, every success attributed to luck rather than her 16-hour days and brilliant strategic mind. She dressed quickly in her usual armor, a black Armani suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, her blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun that added years to her face. No jewelry except her mother's pearl earrings, worn every day since the cancer took her 10 years ago. In the mirror, Cassandra saw what she always saw: a woman who had everything except someone to share it with. Not that she had time for relationships. Love was a luxury she couldn't afford, not when there were quarterly reports to review and competitors to outmaneuver. Her driver was waiting downstairs, the black town car idling in the underground garage. Cassandra slid into the back seat, already scrolling through emails on her phone. The Japanese merger was proceeding on schedule. The server expansion was slightly over budget but manageable. The maintenance department was requesting to hire a new supervisor. She made a mental note to review the candidates herself. Every detail mattered when you were responsible for 5,000 employees and their families. "Unusual traffic this morning, Miss Sterling," her driver mentioned as they emerged onto Fifth Avenue. Cassandra didn't look up from her phone. Traffic was always unusual in Manhattan. That's why she left buffer time, why she planned every minute of every day with military precision. Control was everything. If you couldn't control your environment, you couldn't control your destiny. She thought about the interview scheduled for 8 o'clock. Some maintenance worker thinking he could move up to management. Cassandra had seen his file. Daniel Rodriguez, 5 years with the company, solid performance reviews but no formal management experience. Still, the maintenance director had insisted he deserved a chance. Cassandra would sit in on the interview, see for herself if this man had what it took. She doubted it. In her experience, people rarely rose above their circumstances. 2 weeks before the accident that would change everything, Daniel Rodriguez was deep in the bowels of Sterling Corporation, his hands covered in grease as he worked on a temperamental cooling unit. The data center's air conditioning system was acting up again, threatening the servers that kept the company running. The official repair crew wouldn't arrive until morning, but Daniel knew these machines like old friends. He'd spent 5 years learning every pipe, every wire, every quirk of the building's mechanical heart. "Daddy, when are you coming home?" Emma's voice crackled through his phone, propped against a toolbox. "Soon, baby girl. Is Mrs. Chen taking good care of you? She made soup again. It tastes like socks." Daniel smiled despite his exhaustion. "Don't tell her that. And eat it anyway, it's good for you. You always say that about gross food. Because I'm your dad. It's in the job description." He could picture her rolling her eyes, looking more like her mother every day. Emma had Maria's dark curls, her stubborn chin, her way of seeing straight through his attempts to sugarcoat the world. 2 years since the cancer took Maria, and Emma still set a place for her at dinner. Daniel didn't have the heart to tell her to stop. The cooling unit finally hummed back to life, and Daniel began packing his tools. That's when he heard footsteps in the mechanical room, unusual at 2 in the morning. He looked up to see Cassandra Sterling herself, still in her business suit despite the late hour. "Miss Sterling?" He stood quickly, wiping his hands on his coveralls. "Is everything all right?" She looked as surprised as he was. "I heard noises. We have $20 million of equipment in that server room. Just fixing the cooling system, Mom. It was running hot, but she's good now." Cassandra stepped closer, studying the unit. "The repair team isn't scheduled until tomorrow." "I know. But if this failed tonight, you'd lose more than just equipment. Data corruption, system failures could set the Tokyo merger back weeks." She turned to look at him then, really look at him. Daniel Rodriguez, according to his file. One of dozens of night maintenance workers she'd never noticed before. But here he was at 2 in the morning, preventing a crisis no one else had seen coming. "You understand the implications of the Tokyo merger?" Daniel shrugged. "I read the company newsletters. Like to know what I'm protecting down here. And you fixed this yourself? It's not that complicated when you understand the system. Just a sticky valve, and a sensor that needed recalibration." Cassandra noticed the textbook poking out of his tool bag. "Advanced Thermodynamics. Graduate level. That's yours?" "Yeah, yes ma'am. I like to study during breaks." "Where did you learn to repair industrial cooling systems?" "Here and there." Daniel's voice grew quiet. "Had a different life once. Before." She waited, but he didn't elaborate. Cassandra understood walls she'd built enough of her own. "Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. You may have saved us significant losses tonight." "Just doing my job, Miss Sterling." But as she walked away, Cassandra knew that wasn't true. His job was to mop floors and empty trash. This was something more, something that nagged at her as she returned to her executive suite. She pulled up his personnel file again. 5 years of perfect attendance, never a complaint, several commendations from his supervisor that she'd never seen because who reads maintenance reviews? But there was so little personal information. Just an emergency contact, Emma Rodriguez, daughter, and an address in Queens. She found herself watching him over the next weeks. Not obviously, just noticing. How he arrived precisely at 11 each night, looking tired but determined. How he studied during every break, advanced engineering and physics texts that most of her MIT-educated engineers would struggle with. How he fixed problems before anyone else noticed them, saved the company thousands in prevention rather than repairs. And how everyone called him Danny the janitor, like he was part of the furniture. Daniel, meanwhile, had noticed her watching. It made him nervous. The last thing he needed was attention from the CEO. He had a routine, a plan. Work nights, sleep while Emma was at school, be there when she got home. Help with homework, make dinner, tuck her in at Mrs. Chen's apartment, then back to Sterling. It wasn't much of a life, but it was stable. Emma had health insurance, food on the table, a roof over her head. That's all that mattered. He'd given up dreams of engineering glory the day Maria got her diagnosis. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer doesn't care about your career trajectory or your patents pending. He'd walked away from Boeing without a backward glance, spent every penny of their savings on treatments that bought them 6 more months. 6 months of holding her hand through chemo, of pretending the wigs looked natural, of lying next to her at night feeling her slip away breath by breath. After the funeral, he'd stood in their empty apartment with a $200,000 medical debt and a 6-year-old daughter asking when mommy was coming home. The Sterling job had been a lifeline: steady pay, benefits. No questions asked about the PhD gathering dust in a drawer. He could have declared bankruptcy, could have fought the medical bills, but Maria had been proud. She'd hate knowing her illness destroyed their credit, their daughter's future. So Daniel worked. Every night, every holiday, every moment Emma didn't need him, he worked. "You missed career day," Emma announced one evening over macaroni and cheese. "I'm sorry, baby. I had to sleep. You know I work at night." Jesse's dad came. He's a lawyer. He wore a suit and talked about justice. Daniel's heart clenched. "Did you tell them what I do?" "I said you keep important buildings running." Mrs. Patterson said that sounded nice. Nice. His daughter's teacher thought his job sounded nice. He wondered what she'd think if she knew he'd designed cooling systems for the International Space Station, that his patents were still being used in half the aircraft flying overhead. But that was another life. Another man who'd believed the world rewarded hard work and brilliance. The following Monday started like any other. Daniel was adjusting his schedule, hoping to catch a few hours of overtime to cover Emma's upcoming dental work. That's when his supervisor, Mike Sullivan, pulled him aside. "Danny, you still interested in moving up?" "Always, Mike. You know that. There's a supervisor position opening up. Day shift, better pay, actual management responsibilities. I put your name in." Daniel's heart jumped. "You did?" "Interviews next Monday, 8 sharp. With the big boss herself. Sterling wants to meet all the candidates personally. Wear a suit, bring your A game, and Danny?" Mike gripped his shoulder. "Don't let me down. I stuck my neck out for you." That night, Daniel told Emma about the interview. She threw her arms around his neck, squealing with delight. "Does this mean you'll be home at night? Can we have dinner together like normal families?" "Maybe, baby. If I get it, you'll get it." Her faith was absolute. "You're the smartest daddy in the world." Daniel borrowed a suit from his brother-in-law, practiced interview questions with Mrs. Chen, and spent every break that week reviewing management techniques. For the first time in 2 years, he allowed himself to hope. Not for glory or recognition, just for the chance to tuck his daughter in at night, to be more than a ghost in her life. 3 in the morning, Monday. The data center crisis began with a single alarm, escalating within minutes to a full-scale emergency. The cooling system for Sterling Corporation's primary server farm, $50 million of equipment processing billions in transactions, had failed catastrophically. Temperature readings spiked into the red zone. In 15 minutes, servers would start shutting down. In 30, permanent damage. In an hour, total system failure that could cost millions per minute in lost business. Richard Thompson, head of technical operations, arrived first, his usually perfect hair disheveled from the emergency wake-up call. His team assembled quickly, the best engineers money could buy, all looking at screens full of error messages that made no sense. "Get IBM on the line," Richard barked. "This is their system, they need to fix it." "Sir, it's 3:30 in the morning. I don't care if it's Christmas morning. Get someone here now." Cassandra arrived at 3:45, having broken several traffic laws on empty streets. She swept into the command center like an Arctic wind, her presence dropping the room temperature more effectively than any cooling system. "Status," she demanded. "Complete system failure," Richard reported. "Cooling pumps are running, but temperature keeps climbing. It's like the refrigerant just stopped working." "How is that possible?" "We don't know. IBM is sending someone, but we'll have lost half our servers by then." Cassandra's voice could have cut glass. "Options?" The room fell silent. The best minds in tech, and none of them had answers. That's when Daniel appeared in the doorway, mop bucket in hand. He'd been cleaning the executive floor when the alarm started, had come down to see if he could help. What he saw on the monitors made his blood run cold, a cascading failure he recognized from his Boeing days. "Excuse me," he said quietly. Every head turned. Richard's face flushed red. "What the hell is the janitor doing here? This is a restricted area during emergencies." Daniel ignored him, addressing Cassandra directly. "Ma'am, I think I know what's wrong. The PID controller is running a feedback loop. The system thinks it's cooling when it's actually—" "Did I ask for your opinion?" Richard stepped forward, finger pointing. "Get out before I have security." "Wait." Cassandra's voice cut through. "You think you know what's wrong? I know I do. The proportional integral derivative controller is miscalculating the delta between actual and target temperatures. It's a software issue, not hardware. Happens in complex systems, when When the firmware updates don't account for multiple cooling zones, one of the younger engineers finished, eyes widening. Oh my God, he's right. We updated the firmware last week. Richard sputtered. You're taking the janitor's word. Can you fix it? Cassandra asked Daniel directly. Yes. But I need access to the control system. 15 minutes, maybe 20. Miss Sterling, Richard protested, we can't just let maintenance staff access critical systems. The liability alone, we're losing $2 million per hour, Cassandra stated flatly. At what point does liability become irrelevant? She stared at Daniel, and he met her gaze steadily. In his eyes, she saw not the desperation of a man trying to prove himself, but the calm confidence of someone who simply knew what needed to be done. Mr. Thompson, give him access. I won't be responsible for. I'm not asking you to be. I'm taking full responsibility. Mr. Rodriguez, you have 15 minutes. Daniel moved to the nearest terminal like a man coming home. His fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up diagnostic screens that most of the engineers had never seen. He wasn't showboating. Every keystroke had purpose, every command precise. See here. He pointed to a line of code. The PID loop is adding the error correction instead of subtracting it. Every time it tries to cool, it's actually telling the system to heat up more. Classic sine error in the control algorithm. He dove into the kernel-level programming, rewriting the control algorithm on the fly. The engineers gathered around, watching in growing amazement as Daniel performed digital surgery with the skill of a master craftsman. Where did you learn this? Cassandra asked quietly, moving closer. MIT, originally. Then Boeing. Designed cooling systems for aerospace applications. His hands never stopped moving. The ISS uses a variation of my patent for thermal management. You're an engineer? Was. Life had other plans. He paused, checking his work. My wife got sick. Someone had to take care of her, and after, someone has to take care of our daughter. So you became a janitor? I became a father. The rest is just a job. 12 minutes after he started, green lights began replacing red across the board. Temperature readings dropped steadily. The crisis was over. The room erupted in relief and chatter, but Cassandra heard none of it. She was staring at Daniel Rodriguez, Danny, the janitor who had just saved her company millions with knowledge that surpassed her best engineers. And he'd done it without ego, without demanding recognition, without anything but quiet competence. Mr. Rodriguez, she said formally. My office. Now. Daniel looked at the clock. 4:15. His shift ended at 7, then home to get Emma ready for school, then back for his interview at 8. If he missed any of those windows, the careful balance of his life would collapse. With respect, ma'am, I need to finish my shift. The floors can wait, this can't. They rode the elevator in silence to the 47th floor. Cassandra's office was larger than Daniel's entire apartment, with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city beginning to wake. She gestured to a chair, but remained standing. Why didn't you tell anyone about your background? Would it have mattered? I'm reliable, I do good work. That's all anyone needs to know. You're wasting your talent. Daniel's laugh was bitter. Am I? My talent couldn't save my wife. Couldn't pay her medical bills. Couldn't explain to a 6-year-old why mommy wasn't coming home. But this job? It pays the rent, keeps my daughter healthy, lets me be there for her. That's not waste, that's priority. Cassandra walked to the window, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. My mother died of cancer when I was 25. I threw myself into building this company because work didn't hurt as much as grief. 10 years later, I have everything she wanted for me: success, money, power, and no one to share it with. I'm sorry for your loss. Are you? She turned back. Or are you just being polite? Both. Grief recognizes grief, Miss Sterling. We're both walking wounded, just bandaged differently. Something in her expression cracked, just for a moment. Then the CEO mask slid back into place. You have an interview this morning. Yes, Mom. 8 o'clock. For the maintenance supervisor position. That's right. She returned to her desk, pulled out a folder. I've reviewed your file. 5 years of perfect attendance, numerous commendations I apparently never saw, and now this. You just demonstrated more problem-solving ability than candidates I've hired from Harvard. It was just a PID controller error. Any engineer could. Number. Her voice was sharp. Any engineer couldn't. My entire tech team couldn't. But you did, at 4 in the morning. Without preparation or backup. So I'm going to make you an offer. Daniel waited, his hands steady despite his racing pulse. Director of Technical Operations. Report directly to me. Salary starts at $250, full benefits, stock options. Hours are flexible. I understand you have a daughter. You'd oversee all building systems, lead a team of 20 engineers, have input on strategic technical decisions. The number echoed in his head. 250,000. Enough to pay off Maria's medical debt in 2 years. Enough to move somewhere with a real bedroom for Emma. Enough to stop worrying about every field trip permission slip that asked for money. What about Richard Thompson? Mr. Thompson has proven tonight that he values hierarchy over competence. He'll be reassigned. And if I say no? Cassandra studied him. Then you continue mopping floors while your daughter grows up knowing her father gave up his dreams. Your choice, Mr. Rodriguez. But choose wisely. I don't make offers twice. Daniel thought of Emma, asleep at Mrs. Chen's apartment. Of the borrowed suit hanging in his locker for an interview that now seemed pointless. Of Maria's voice telling him he was meant for more than survival. I accept. But I have conditions. Cassandra's eyebrows rose. You're negotiating? I need to leave by 3:30 every day to pick up Emma from school. I won't work weekends unless it's a genuine emergency. And my team treats everyone with respect. No more Danny, the janitor culture. We judge people by their contributions, not their titles. Done. Anything else? One thing. I want to mentor one maintenance worker per year, help them advance if they show aptitude. This place gave me a chance when I needed it. I want to pay that forward. For the first time since he'd met her, Cassandra Sterling smiled, not the practiced CEO smile, but something real and warm. I think we're going to work well together, Mr. Rodriguez. Can you start Monday? I can start now, if you need me. Go home, she said softly. Go see your daughter. The servers will survive a few more hours without you. As Daniel headed for the elevator, Cassandra called out, Mr. Rodriguez? Thank you. Not just for tonight. For reminding me why I built this company in the first place. He paused at the door. We all need reminding sometimes. Even CEOs. Especially CEOs. Monday morning arrived gray and bitter, matching Daniel's mood. He hadn't slept after leaving Sterling Corporation, his mind spinning with the job offer and its implications. Emma had been thrilled when he'd told her over breakfast, dancing around the kitchen singing Daddy got promoted. But as he dressed in his borrowed suit for the interview, he no longer needed, something felt unfinished. He called Mike Sullivan, explained about the CEO's offer. Mike's whoop of joy echoed through the phone. I knew it. I knew you were meant for more. I still want to come in for the interview, Daniel said. Officially withdraw my application in person. You stuck your neck out for me, I won't leave you hanging. Danny, you don't need to. Yes, I do. Some things you do because they're right, not because you need to. Which is how Daniel found himself on that frozen sidewalk at 7:45, watching the city wake around him. He'd been early his whole life for school, for work, for every appointment that mattered. Maria used to tease him about it. The world won't end if you're 5 minutes late, she'd say. But she'd been wrong. Her oncologist had been 5 minutes late reading her scan results. 5 minutes that meant the difference between treatable and terminal. The screech of brakes shattered his memories. Time slowed as he watched the taxi skid on black ice, saw the woman step off the curb while checking her phone, witnessed the moment of impact that sent her flying. Her body hit the concrete with a sound that turned his stomach, and suddenly he was back in the hospital, watching Maria fall in the bathroom, her body too weak to stand. Everyone else stood frozen, the taxi driver white-faced behind the wheel, pedestrians forming a circle of useless phones and shocked expressions. But Daniel was already moving, muscle memory from years of emergency training at Boeing taking over. Check for breathing, yes, but labored. Pulse rapid but strong. The head wound was bad, blood flowing freely onto concrete that sparkled with frost. He pressed his suit jacket against the wound, not caring about the interview, the borrowed clothes, the careful timeline of his morning. The woman's face was pale but beautiful, something familiar about the angle of her jaw, the expensive pearl earrings. Blood seeped through his jacket, warm against his freezing hands. You're going to be okay, he murmured. The same words he'd whispered to Maria 1,000 times. Help is coming. Stay with me. Her eyelids fluttered, revealing green eyes clouded with pain and confusion. For a moment, they focused on his face. Dad? She whispered. No, I'm Daniel. You've been in an accident. Don't try to move. But she'd already slipped back into unconsciousness. Daniel kept pressure on the wound, kept talking to her anyway. He told her about the ambulance coming, about how the doctors would take good care of her, about how she'd be home soon. The same lies he'd told himself in hospital waiting rooms. The EMTs arrived at 8:03. They moved with practiced efficiency, transferring care from Daniel's amateur hands to professional equipment. As they loaded her onto the gurney, one of them looked at Daniel's blood-soaked jacket. "You probably saved her life," the EMT said. "Good pressure on that wound." "You a doctor?" "Number just. Someone who was here." He watched the ambulance disappear into traffic, then looked down at himself. His jacket was ruined, shirt splattered with blood, hands stained red despite wiping them on his pants. The interview was in 12 minutes. He could still make it, could explain, could salvage this. Instead, Daniel picked up his scattered papers, resume copies now decorated with dirty footprints, and walked away from Sterling Corporation. Some choices you make in an instant, and spend a lifetime understanding. As he headed for the subway, he thought about Emma, about explaining why he'd given up their chance at a better life. But he also thought about the woman's eyes, that moment of frightened consciousness, and knew he'd made the only choice he could live with. Maria would have understood. Maria always understood. Back at Sterling Corporation, Cassandra's morning was unraveling into chaos. The board meeting had been moved up, the Japanese investors were asking difficult questions about the near disaster with the servers, and Richard Thompson had submitted a formal complaint about his reassignment. She'd handled it all with her usual icy efficiency, but her mind kept drifting to Daniel Rodriguez. She'd pulled his complete personnel file, even accessed his previous employment records through corporate channels. The man had been brilliant: 3 patents, published papers, commendations from Boeing for innovations that saved millions. Then nothing. A 5-year gap that aligned with his wife's death, followed by night shift maintenance work that barely used a fraction of his capabilities. "Miss Sterling?" Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The 8 o'clock interview candidates are here. Should I send the first one in?" Cassandra checked her calendar. "Right, the maintenance supervisor position." Daniel would be among them, going through the motions of an interview for a job far beneath what she'd already offered him. She wondered if he'd told the other candidates, if he was sitting out there in his borrowed suit knowing he'd already won. Send them in one at a time. 5 minutes each. The first 2 candidates were predictable solid workers with good records and no imagination. They answered questions by rote, eager to please but unable to think beyond standard procedures. Cassandra found herself comparing them to Daniel, to the way he diagnosed a crisis in seconds that had stumped her best people. "Miss Sterling?" Her assistant again, sounding confused. "Mr. Rodriguez hasn't arrived. Should we wait, or? What time is it?" 8:20, Mom. Late. Daniel Rodriguez, the man with perfect attendance for 5 years, was late to the most important interview of his life. Cassandra felt an unexpected stab of disappointment. Had she misjudged him? Was his reliability just another facade? Give him 5 more minutes. Then we proceed without him. But 5 minutes became 10, then 15. The other candidates completed their interviews, each adequate but uninspiring. Cassandra dismissed them with promises of decisions by end of week, her mind churning. Why would he do this? Even if he didn't need the maintenance position, professional courtesy demanded he show up, explain, withdraw properly. Her phone buzzed. Mike Sullivan, maintenance supervisor, marked urgent. "Miss Sterling? I'm sorry to bother you, but I just heard from Daniel Rodriguez. He won't make the interview. There was an incident, he stopped to help an accident victim. Said he'd explain later, but I thought you should know. He's never missed anything before, and I vouched for him, so." "An accident victim?" That's all he said. Sounded shaken up. "I've known Danny 5 years, he wouldn't miss this unless it was serious." Cassandra hung up without responding, a strange feeling settling in her chest. She called her driver, heading for the exit before she'd fully formed a plan. Daniel Rodriguez had given up a crucial interview to help a stranger. The same man who'd saved her company millions at 4 in the morning without being asked. The same man who'd turned down glory to care for a dying wife. Who does that anymore? Who chooses others over themselves, consistently, quietly, without expectation of reward? She was 3 blocks from the office when her phone rang. Her personal physician, Dr. Martinez, sounding uncharacteristically emotional. "Cassandra, thank God. I'm at Mount Sinai ER. You need to come immediately." "What? Why?" "I'm not. It's your sister. Victoria was in an accident this morning. Taxi versus pedestrian. She's stable now, but Cassandra, if someone hadn't been there, hadn't stopped the bleeding." The phone slipped from Cassandra's numb fingers. Victoria. Her younger sister, the artist who'd refused to join the family business, who lived in Rome and painted and only visited twice a year. Victoria, who was supposed to be safe in Italy, not bleeding on a Manhattan sidewalk. "Turn around," she told her driver. "Mount Sinai Hospital, fast." The ER was controlled chaos, but Dr. Martinez met her at the entrance. She's conscious, asking for you. Concussion, 15 stitches, but no permanent damage. The EMTs said a bystander saved her life, kept pressure on the head wound until they arrived. Who? We don't know. He left before anyone got his name. But Victoria keeps asking about him, says he had kind eyes. Cassandra found her sister propped up in bed, bandaged, but alert. They hadn't seen each other in 8 months. Cassandra too busy with the company, Victoria too stubborn to come home more often. But all the old arguments evaporated as Cassandra gripped her sister's hand. You absolute idiot, she whispered. What were you doing here? Surprising you. Victoria's voice was hoarse. Flew in last night. Was walking to your office when. God, Cass, I thought I was dying. There was so much blood, and everyone just stood there filming. Except him. The man who helped you? He ruined his suit jacket to stop the bleeding. Kept talking to me, telling me I'd be okay. He had a daughter, I remember, because he said, my Emma is waiting for me, and your family is waiting for you, so we're both going to be fine. Cassandra's blood turned to ice. Emma? That's what he said. Why? Do you know him? Without answering, Cassandra pulled out her phone, accessing Sterling's employee database. Daniel Rodriguez, emergency contact. Emma Rodriguez, daughter. She scrolled to his address, cross-referenced the time, the location, the route he would have taken. Oh my God. Cass. What is it? I know who saved you. And I know what it cost him. 2 hours later, Cassandra stood outside a rundown apartment building in Queens, her designer heels incongruous on the cracked sidewalk. She'd left Victoria in Dr. Martinez's care, driven by something she couldn't name, to find Daniel Rodriguez. To thank him. To understand him. To figure out why the universe kept putting this man in her path. His apartment was on the 4th floor, no elevator. The hallways smelled of cooking oil and industrial cleaner, walls painted that particular shade of beige that landlords believed hid everything. She knocked twice before hearing footsteps. Daniel opened the door in jeans and a t-shirt, exhaustion written across his face. His eyes widened in shock. Miss Sterling? The woman you saved this morning. The accident victim. That was my sister. He sagged against the doorframe. Is she? Fine, alive, thanks to you. Cassandra struggled with words for the first time in years. You missed your interview, the job you wanted, the chance to move up. You gave it up for someone you didn't even know was connected to me. I didn't do it for you. I know. That's what I can't understand. Why? Daniel stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. The apartment was small but spotless, toys neatly arranged in one corner, engineering textbooks stacked on a card table. Photos covered one wall, a beautiful woman with dark hair, the same woman with a baby, then a toddler, then nothing. The pictures stopped when the woman disappeared. Coffee? Daniel asked, already moving to the kitchen. Yes. Thank you. As he worked, Cassandra studied the space. Emma's artwork covered the refrigerator, crayon drawings of 3 figures labeled Daddy, me, and Mommy in heaven. A schedule on the wall mapped out every hour: school, Mrs. Chen's apartment, Daddy's work, repeat. The precision of poverty, where every minute mattered because there was no margin for error. You asked why, Daniel said, returning with 2 mugs. Sit down. It's a longer answer than you might want. They sat at the small table, the coffee bitter but hot. Daniel stared into his mug as he spoke. Maria was 28 when she was diagnosed. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. 6 months, they said. She made it 8. You know what I learned during those 8 months? That when someone is dying, really dying, all the things we think matter just don't. He looked up at Cassandra. I had this whole life planned. Rising star at Boeing, patents pending, house in the suburbs. Then one day I'm sitting in an oncologist's office learning words like metastatic and palliative care, and suddenly my biggest achievement was making Maria laugh between chemo sessions. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. No, you asked. You deserve an answer. Daniel's voice was steady, factual. After she died, I had $200,000 in medical debt, and a 6-year-old who cried herself to sleep every night. Boeing offered me my job back, but it meant traveling, long hours, Emma raised by nannies. So I took the night shift at Sterling. Stable hours, health insurance, home every morning to make her breakfast. He stood, retrieved a frame from the shelf. Maria at maybe 25, laughing at something off camera, vibrantly alive. She was a nurse. Spent her life taking care of others. When Emma was born, Maria made me promise that if anything happened, I'd always choose being a father over being successful. Success is just a word, she said. But Daddy is a name that matters. Cassandra found herself blinking back unexpected tears. So this morning I saw your sister on that sidewalk. And all I could think was that somewhere, someone loves her the way I loved Maria. Someone would get a phone call that would destroy their world. And if I could prevent that call, stop that pain, then missing an interview didn't matter. Nothing mattered except keeping her alive. Even though it cost you everything you'd worked toward? Daniel's smile was gentle. Miss Sterling, I've already lost everything that couldn't be replaced. A job? A promotion? That's just money. But being able to look Emma in the eye and tell her I helped someone who needed it. That's the man her mother wanted me to be. The front door burst open before Cassandra could respond. Emma Rodriguez flew in, all 8 years of energy and curls, stopping short at the sight of a stranger. Daddy. Why are you home? Are you sick? No, baby. Just had a change in schedule. Emma, this is Miss Sterling from my work. Emma studied Cassandra with serious dark eyes. Are you the boss lady? Daddy says you're really smart and kind of scary. Emma. Daniel's face flushed. But Cassandra laughed, the sound surprising them both. I am the boss lady. And your daddy's right, I am kind of scary. But not to little girls with excellent manners. Emma beamed, then noticed her father's stained clothes in the corner. Daddy, why is your suit all bloody? I helped someone who was hurt this morning. But they're okay now. Like when you helped that bird that flew into our window? Something like that, yes. Emma nodded solemnly, then brightened. Can Miss Sterling stay for lunch? Mrs. Chen made extra dumplings. I'm sure Miss Sterling has important. I'd love to, Cassandra interrupted, surprising herself. If that's okay with your father. The next hour passed in a blur of pork dumplings and Emma's chatter. The little girl was brilliant, asking questions about Cassandra's work that showed she'd inherited her father's engineering mind. But more than that, she was offering her best dumpling to their guest, carefully explaining how to use chopsticks when Cassandra fumbled. Daddy says helping people is more important than being important, Emma announced. Apropos of nothing. That's why he fixes things at night, so the important people can work during the day. Cassandra caught Daniel's eye. He shrugged, unashamed of the philosophy he'd taught his daughter. And in that moment, sitting in a cramped queen's apartment, eating dumplings with a man who'd given up everything twice over, Cassandra felt something shift inside her chest. A wall she'd built so carefully that she'd forgotten it was there, crumbling like old mortar. Your daddy's right, she told Emma. I've been important my whole adult life, and I'm just now learning about helping people. After lunch, Emma showed Cassandra her room, a converted closet that Daniel had somehow transformed into a magical space with paint and imagination. While Emma demonstrated her rock collection, Cassandra found Daniel in the kitchen, washing dishes by hand. The job offer stands, she said quietly. Director of Technical Operations. Same terms we discussed. After I missed the interview? After you had to come to Queens to find me? Because you missed the interview. Because you chose my sister's life over your own advancement. Because you're teaching your daughter that kindness matters more than success. She paused. My company needs people like you. I need people like you. Daniel dried his hands slowly. It won't change who I am. I'll still put Emma first. Still leave at 3:30. Still believe in helping whoever needs it. I'm counting on it. The corporate world has enough people who put profit over humanity. Maybe it's time we tried something different. Before Daniel could respond, Emma appeared in the doorway. Daddy, can Miss Sterling come to my school play? I'm going to be a scientist. I'm sure she's very busy. When is it? Cassandra asked. Thursday at 6. I have 3 whole lines. Then I'll be there. Emma squealed and hugged Cassandra's legs, then ran off to find the script to show her. Daniel watched his daughter go, then turned back to his new boss. She doesn't attach to people easily. Lost too much too young. But she likes you. The feeling's mutual. Cassandra meant it. Monday morning. 9 o'clock? We'll start your transition. And Daniel? Thank you. For saving Victoria. For reminding me why I started this company. For being exactly who you are. That night, after Cassandra left and Emma was asleep, Daniel stood in his daughter's doorway watching her breathe. He thought about Maria, about promises made and kept, about the strange turns life takes. In saving a stranger, he'd saved his own future. But more than that, he'd shown Emma that doing right mattered more than doing well. Monday came with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Daniel arrived at Sterling Corporation at 8:30, this time through the main entrance in broad daylight. The security guard did a double take. Danny? What are you doing here during the day? starting a new position. Director of Technical Operations. The guard's eyes widened. No kidding? Good for you, man. About time someone noticed what you can do. The executive elevator felt different in daylight. The building transformed from the quiet kingdom he'd ruled at night to a bustling hive of ambition. Cassandra met him on the 47th floor, professional but warmer than he'd ever seen her. Ready for this? Honestly. Number. But I wasn't ready to be a widower or a single father either. You adapt. She introduced him to his team 20 engineers, most with advanced degrees, all looking skeptical about the maintenance man turned director. Daniel recognized the doubt in their eyes. He'd have to earn their respect, prove himself all over again. But he'd done it before. I know what you're thinking, he told them in their first meeting. Who's this guy who came out of nowhere? Why should we follow him? Fair questions. So let me tell you what I believe. Every person in this building matters. From the CEO to the night janitor. Everyone has knowledge, perspective, value. My job isn't to be smarter than you, it's to help you be as smart as you can be. Together. Slowly, the skepticism faded. Daniel's hands-on approach, his willingness to crawl into mechanical spaces beside his team, his ability to explain complex systems, in simple terms, it all built trust. Within a month, his department was running more efficiently than it had in years. But the real changes went deeper. Daniel instituted shadow shifts where executives worked alongside maintenance crews. He created a suggestion system that rewarded practical solutions regardless of source. He mandated that every technical document be written so a high school student could understand it. Why does clarity matter so much to you? Cassandra asked one evening, finding him revising a procedure manual. Because knowledge shouldn't be a barrier. Maria barely finished high school, but she was one of the smartest people I knew. She just learned differently. If we write like everyone has 3 degrees, we're leaving people behind. Cassandra watched him work, noticed how he still kept Emma's schedule posted prominently, still left promptly at 3:30 no matter what crisis was brewing. At first, some board members grumbled about his banker's hours. Then they saw the productivity numbers, the employee satisfaction scores, the innovation metrics all climbing steadily. Thursday arrived, and true to her word, Cassandra attended Emma's play. She sat beside Daniel in the elementary school auditorium, surrounded by parents with phone cameras and younger siblings who couldn't sit still. When Emma delivered her 3 lines about the scientific method, Cassandra cheered as loudly as any parent. You came, Emma bounded over after the curtain call, still wearing her lab coat costume. I promised, didn't I? You were wonderful. A natural scientist. Just like Daddy. He's teaching me about thermodynamics. Thermodynamics, Daniel corrected gently. And maybe we should master long division first. As they walked to the parking lot, Emma between them holding both their hands, Cassandra felt that wall inside her crumble a little more. This was what she'd missed, buried in spreadsheets and board meetings. Connection. Family. Joy in small moments. Ice cream to celebrate, she suggested. Yes. Emma shouted, then looked at her father. Can we, Daddy? How can I say no to my brilliant scientist? They ended up at a small shop near the school, Emma chattering about her friends and her teacher, while systematically mixing all available toppings into her sundae. Cassandra found herself laughing more than she had in years, drawn into debates about the best flavor combinations and whether sprinkles were structurally necessary. Miss Sterling? Emma asked suddenly, ice cream on her nose. Do you have a family? Emma. Daniel warned. It's okay. Cassandra smiled at the little girl. I have a sister who lives far away. And my parents passed away several years ago. So mostly, I have my work family. That's sad. Everyone should have a real family. Emma considered this seriously. You could share ours. Daddy and I have extra love. Daniel's spoon clattered against his bowl. Emma, that's not. Actually, Cassandra said softly, that's the nicest offer anyone's made me in a long time. Their eyes met over Emma's head, and something passed between them: understanding, possibility, hope. Daniel looked away first, focusing on cleaning Emma's face, but Cassandra saw the slight tremor in his hands. The weeks turned to months. Daniel's position at Sterling became not just successful but transformative. He promoted from within, recognizing talent in unexpected places. The night custodian with an associate's degree in computer science became a junior systems analyst. The cafeteria worker who'd rewired her entire apartment building became an electrical systems trainee. You're building something special, Cassandra told him one afternoon, reviewing his department's quarterly report. Turnover is down 80%. Innovation is up by nearly half. How? Simple. I treat people the way Maria treated her patients, like they matter. Like they have something to contribute beyond their job description. Cassandra studied him across her desk. 3 months of working together had only deepened her respect for him. He never tried to impress her, never played politics, never compromised his principles for expediency. And somehow, that integrity made him the most effective leader she'd ever hired. "Dinner tonight?" she asked impulsively. "Not business. Just dinner." Daniel's expression shifted, surprise, followed by something more careful. "Emma has soccer practice until 7. So dinner at 7:30? All 3 of us? Are you sure that's wise? You're my boss. People will talk. People always talk. I've spent 10 years not caring what they say about my business decisions. Maybe it's time I stopped caring what they say about my personal ones too." That dinner became a weekly tradition. Nothing fancy: pizza after soccer, Chinese food after Emma's piano lessons, burgers when they were all too tired to think. Cassandra learned to braid Emma's hair while Daniel cooked. Daniel learned to delegate better after Cassandra pointed out his tendency to do everything himself. Emma learned that Miss Sterling Cassie, she insisted, wasn't scary at all, just sad sometimes. "Why are you sad?" Emma asked one evening, curled between them on Daniel's couch watching a movie. "Because I forgot how to be happy," Cassandra answered honestly. "But you and your daddy are helping me remember." Victoria visited from Rome for Thanksgiving, eager to meet the man who'd saved her life. She took one look at how Cassandra smiled at Daniel, how natural she looked, helping Emma set the table, and pulled her sister aside. "You're in love with him. Don't be ridiculous. He works for me. And he's still grieving his wife. Cass, grief doesn't mean you stop living. And from the way he looks at you, I'd say he's ready to start again." But Cassandra couldn't shake the feeling that she was trespassing on sacred ground. Maria's presence was everywhere in the apartment, in Emma's eyes, in Daniel's careful way of honoring her memory, in the photos that would never be moved. How could she compete with a ghost who'd been perfect? The answer came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Chen, the elderly neighbor who'd watched Emma for years, cornered Cassandra in the hallway one December evening. "You're good for them," she said, without preamble. "Daniel's been sleepwalking through life for 2 years. Going through motions. Now he smiles again. Real smiles, not just for Emma. I don't want to replace." "Silly girl. Love isn't replacement. It's addition. Maria would want them happy. She told me before she died, made me promise to make sure Daniel didn't close his heart forever." Christmas approached with a mix of joy and melancholy. Daniel struggled with the season, memories of past holidays with Maria making him quiet and withdrawn. Cassandra gave him space, but Emma had other ideas. "We need to make new traditions," she announced over breakfast. "Mommy would want us to be happy at Christmas." So they did. They went ice skating at Rockefeller Center, Cassandra clinging to the rail while Emma zoomed past like a small comet. They baked cookies that turned out lopsided but delicious. They picked out a tree together, decorating it with a mix of old ornaments and new ones they chose as a trio. On Christmas Eve, after Emma was asleep, Daniel and Cassandra sat by the tree sharing wine and quiet conversation. "This is the first Christmas that hasn't felt like just surviving," he admitted. "Emma's right, we needed new traditions. She's a wise little girl. Gets it from her mother." Daniel paused. "Maria would have liked you. You're both fierce when you care about something." "I care about you," Cassandra said quietly. "Both of you. More than I should. More than is professional." Daniel set down his wine glass, turned to face her fully. "Cassandra, I know. It's too soon. Too complicated. You're still grieving. I'm your boss. There are 1,000 reasons why this is a bad idea. I was going to say I care about you too. And yes, there are 1,000 reasons to be careful. But there's one reason that matters more: you make me want to live again, not just exist." "What about Maria?" "I'll always love Maria. She gave me Emma, showed me what love could be. But she's gone, and she'd be the first to tell me that loving her memory isn't the same as living my life." He took Cassandra's hand. "I'm scared. Terrified, actually. I know how much it hurts to lose someone. But I'm more scared of missing this chance because I was too afraid to take it." They kissed then, soft and tentative, full of promise and fear in equal measure. When they pulled apart, both had tears in their eyes. "Slow," Cassandra whispered. "We go slow. For Emma. For us. For everyone." "Slow," Daniel agreed. "But forward." Winter turned to spring with careful steps forward. They kept their relationship quiet at first, not out of shame but out of respect for the delicate balance they were building. Emma knew first. Of course, children always know, and gave her blessing with an 8-year-old's straightforward wisdom. Cassie makes you laugh, she told her father. And you make her less lonely. That's what love is, right? At work, Daniel continued to excel, his department becoming a model for the company. The mentorship program he'd requested had expanded, with senior engineers volunteering to train promising maintenance staff. The culture shift was palpable. Sterling Corporation was becoming known not just for innovation but for humanity. "You've changed this place," Richard Thompson told him one day. The former department head had been humbled by his demotion but ultimately transformed by it, learning to value competence over credentials. "Changed me too. I was an ass that night with the servers. We all have our moments. What matters is what we do after." By summer, their relationship was an open secret, handled with surprising maturity by most. There were whispers, of course, but Cassandra's fierce protection of her personal life and Daniel's unimpeachable work performance silenced most critics. The real test came when Cassandra was offered a massive acquisition opportunity, a rival company that would double Sterling's size but require months of 18-hour days, constant travel, and total focus. "It's what I've worked for," she told Daniel over dinner. "The chance to build an empire. Then you should take it." She studied his face. "You mean that?" "Of course. I'd never ask you to choose between us and your dreams. We'll manage. Emma and I are good at adapting." But that night, Cassandra lay awake thinking about empires and families, about what success really meant. She'd spent 10 years building Sterling Corporation as a monument to ambition. What if the next 10 were about building something else? The next morning, she declined the acquisition. "Why?" the board chairman asked, stunned. "Because bigger isn't always better. Because I've learned that success without satisfaction is just expensive failure. Because I want to build a company she paused, smiled, my family can be proud of." Fall arrived with its own changes. Daniel officially moved to a day schedule that matched Emma's school hours. Cassandra started working from home 1 day a week, her penthouse apartment suddenly filled with children's laughter and homework debates. They were becoming something new, not replacing the past but creating a future. The wedding proposal came on a quiet Sunday morning. No grand gestures, just Daniel making breakfast while Emma and Cassandra argued about pancake toppings. He turned from the stove, spatula in hand, and said simply, "Marry me." Cassandra dropped her coffee mug. Emma squealed. And in the chaos of broken ceramic and excited jumping, Cassandra said yes. They married the following spring in the Sterling Corporation rooftop garden, the same place where Daniel had once fixed air conditioning units in the dead of night. The guest list was small but meaningful. Victoria flew in from Rome. Mrs. Chen wore her best dress. Mike Sullivan served as best man, and the night maintenance crew sat in the front row. Emma, now 10, and even more like her mother in looks and spirit, served as maid of honor. She'd written her own speech, which she delivered with the poise of someone twice her age. "My mommy went to heaven when I was 6, she began, voice clear and strong. Daddy says she's still watching over us, making sure we're okay. I think she sent Cassie to us because she knew we needed someone to love and someone who needed us to love them back. So thank you, Mommy, for taking care of us even from heaven. And thank you, Cassie, for showing us that hearts can grow bigger, that families can get larger, that love doesn't divide, it multiplies." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Daniel pulled Emma into a fierce hug, then extended his arm to include Cassandra. They stood there, a triangle of chosen family, while their guests applauded not just a wedding but a resurrection of hope. In his vows, Daniel spoke about second chances. "I thought my life ended when Maria died. I thought my only job was to survive for Emma. But you showed me that surviving isn't living. You saw past the janitor's uniform to the man I'd forgotten I could be. You loved my daughter like your own before you loved me. You chose us every day, even when it was complicated, even when it was hard. I promise to choose you back, every day, for whatever days were given." Cassandra's vows were simpler but no less profound. "I built an empire but lived in emptiness. I had success but no satisfaction. Then one morning, a man missed his interview to save my sister's life, and I realized I'd been measuring worth all wrong. You taught me that kindness is strength, that vulnerability is courage, that love is not a luxury but a necessity. I promise to remember those lessons, to honor the love that came before, and to build the love that comes next." As they kissed, sealing their union, Emma tugged on their joined hands. "Can I call you Mom now?" she whispered to Cassandra. "I would be honored." 5 years passed in a blur of ordinary miracles. Emma grew into a teenager, brilliant and compassionate, carrying her mother's spirit and her father's integrity. She excelled in science and math but also volunteered at the hospital where Maria had worked, reading to young patients. Sterling Corporation evolved into something unprecedented, a tech giant with a soul. The mentorship program Daniel started had produced dozens of success stories. The work-life balance policies Cassandra implemented became industry standards. They proved that profitability and humanity weren't mutually exclusive. Daniel never forgot where he came from. He still walked the maintenance floors regularly, still knew every janitor by name. His office door was always open, his solutions still elegantly simple. He'd published papers on industrial cooling systems, consulted for NASA, won awards for innovation. But his greatest pride was the photo on his desk: Emma at her middle school science fair, Cassandra beside her, both beaming as she explained her project on thermal dynamics in space stations. "She's going to surpass us both," Cassandra said one evening, watching Emma work on college applications. "Already has," Daniel replied. "She knows what matters." They'd built a life together that honored the past while embracing the future. Maria's photos still held places of honor, her memory woven into their family story not as a shadow but as a foundation. Love, they'd learned, wasn't finite. It expanded to fill whatever space you gave it. On the 7th anniversary of the morning Daniel missed his interview, they stood in the same spot where he'd saved Victoria. The city rushed around them, unchanged in its chaos, but they were different people now. Whole where they'd been broken. Together where they'd been alone. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd made that interview?" Cassandra asked. Daniel pulled her close. "Every choice creates a world. In another universe, maybe I got that supervisor job, worked my way up slowly, never met you. Emma and I would have been fine. Safe. Small." He kissed her forehead. "But in this world, I chose to stop for a stranger, and that stranger's sister chose to see me, and we chose each other, and Emma chose to open her heart again. This world, with all its pain and possibility, is the one I want." That night, they had dinner as they always did together. Emma talked about her advanced placement physics class, her volunteer work, her plans to study biomedical engineering. "I want to design medical equipment," she announced. "Stuff that helps people like Mom helped people, but with Dad's engineering to make it better, and Cassie's business sense to make it accessible." "You've thought this through," Cassandra observed. "I've had good examples. All three of my parents showed me that what you do matters less than why you do it." After Emma went to bed, Daniel and Cassandra sat on their terrace overlooking the city. The same skyline, the same stars, but seen now through eyes that had learned to look beyond surfaces. "She said 3 parents, Cassandra murmured. "She's right. Maria gave her life. You gave her possibility. I just try to give her stability. We all gave her love. Different kinds at different times, but all necessary." They sat in comfortable silence, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way through sacrifice and kindness, through choosing others over themselves, until they learned to choose together. The city hummed below them, millions of lives intersecting and diverging, each choice creating ripples that touched shores they'd never see. Somewhere in that city, someone else was mopping floors with dreams deferred. Somewhere, a CEO was learning that success felt empty when unshared. Somewhere, a child was waiting for their parent to come home, for their world to expand beyond survival. And in a penthouse apartment that had once echoed with loneliness, a family sat together in grateful silence. Proof that sometimes the best things come from the worst moments, that missing one opportunity can open doors to destinations you never knew existed. They were living testimony that love, real love, doesn't diminish with sharing but grows exponentially, healing wounds and building bridges and creating space for joy in places that once held only sorrow. The circle was complete, but the story continued. Because that's what love does: it continues, it expands, it transforms. It takes janitors and makes them directors. It takes CEOs and makes them mothers. It takes broken hearts and teaches them to beat again, not the same as before, but stronger for having been tested. And sometimes, on cold mornings when the city feels too big, and life feels too hard, it reminds you that the most important interview you'll ever have is with your own conscience, asking one simple question: when someone needs help, what will you choose? Daniel Rodriguez chose to stop. Cassandra Sterling chose to see. Emma Rodriguez chose to trust. And in those choices, a family was born that proved love isn't bound by blood or limited by loss. It's as infinite as our courage to reach for it, as lasting as our willingness to hold on, and as transforming as our decision to believe that the best parts of our story might still be unwritten. In the end, that's all any of us can do: choose love over fear, kindness over opportunity, connection over isolation. The rest is just details, just the beautiful, messy, miraculous details of lives lived fully, hearts opened bravely, and love multiplied endlessly. The alarm clock would ring tomorrow at 6. Daniel would make breakfast. Emma would complain about calculus. Cassandra would face another day of corporate challenges. But tonight, they were simply together, three souls who'd found each other across a city of millions, held together by choices made on cold sidewalks and in server rooms, in hospital corridors and boardrooms, in all the small moments where what you do matters less than who you choose to be. And they chose each other. Again and again and again. Forever and always, in sickness and health, in sorrow and joy, in all the ways that matter and all the days they were given. A janitor, a CEO, and a little girl who'd lost her mother but found her family. Together.